So because we want people to come out here and have a good experience and continue signing up for the share, we plant a little bit of stuff right in front of the store, right where they're going to have to be. That's just freebies, just to incentivize it, just to ensure that we don't ever have to pack boxes, ensure that we don't ever have to fill a van up and drive into town. That's what we don't want to do. So we've got some hardy herbs planted here that people can come, and if they, if you're cooking many things that would call for herbs, you just need a sprig or something. So you don't have to buy a whole bunch of herbs. You can come here and grab whatever you need on that given week. This next to us will become flowers. It's almost flowers. I actually thought it was going to be flowers when you were here, but I think we'll need another week. But this becomes a really big flower patch, and people can spend as much time in there, and we don't police it at all. We provide snips, and folks can go and cut whatever kind of bouquet they want to take home. And it's 5 beds we have to manage, and we do a medium good job managing it, I would say. We could probably do a little bit better, but that right there, I think, buys us so much goodwill with our customers, because folks love flowers. They really do, right?
They do. The thing about the flower thing, we don't choose to ship it. It is not a charge thing. We don't have a flower share.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's the happiest I see people. People will eat all of the vegetables in the world all summer long with us if it means that they get to pick some flowers. Because they're either doing it for themselves for a little break, or they're making up a bouquet to take to somebody else. And it's just, if we ever stop doing that, we may as well go out of business, because it is people's favorite thing. That's the one that's non-negotiable. We'll talk about the other ones that we broke people's hearts with us. But that one, I think, has to stay, and I love it. Absolutely. You love it.
And it's nice. It's controlled chaos for our farm. We're not flower growers. I only know about half of the flowers that pop up out of there by name. Yeah. We organize the seed by how big the seed is, and we seed it with little scoops. So it's just totally bonkers. But I think that's part of the charm, and people do really enjoy it. And it turns out to be a really good product as a result. Yeah. Was that a hand?
Yeah, I noticed the like super beautiful hedgerow, as you call it, too. That was like the first thing I saw. Was like this feels warm and inviting. Was that you as well? Or...
This hedgerow is an NRCS legacy project from before this was Wild Hare, when this was Terry's Berries farm. The owners went through an NRCS program and put in that hedgerow, and then Pierce Conservation's not here, huh? All right. They put in another hedgerow towards the back that's all edible perennial shrubs. And so that's another one, and it's a sort of edible and attracting, some pollinators.
And that's new this year. So
Yeah.
it's done a lot of growing. Could do you.
But PC did all the paperwork on that, so I'm not really going to speak to it. We hate Rime. Does anyone else hate Rime? We haven't done a great job managing it. We need to get better about it. We're experimenting with ways to just get over our hate of Rime. So what we've set up is kind of ridiculous to unroll Rime, is we've got a pipe and another pipe and a couple chains. And so we'll bring a tractor out here, and the tractor will hold up with the top pipe, and the bottom pipe is suspended, and then we can put the roll of Rime on there, and it unrolls like a dream, right? Would you say it's perfect? So putting down one piece of Rime is something that we're really, we've decided we're okay with. 3 people can get a long sheet of Rime down. We'll walk out with 2 short shovels. We'll walk back, burying it as we go. We're okay with that. But we've limited ourselves historically to only using Rime once a year. We buy the lightest stuff. We use it just for critters, not really for frost protection to speak of at all. And then when we started farming here, there was a lot of clubroot. And as a result, we didn't want to move Rime around the farm because we didn't want to just risk that. We were doing all sorts of things. We're pretty paranoid about clubroot our first several years. So we gave up on reusing Rime that year, but now we're coming back to it. And it's mixed results. So what we've done is we take our little pipe here and we'll put a PVC pipe a bit longer than this, and then we'll clamp. I think we have like 250 feet long beds for the most part, and I think that's the challenge with Rime. What are you going to do with this long, long roll? So we've been just clamping it to the pipe. Boop, boop. And in several places, and then this will roll up just fine. And by just fine, I mean this is kind of the final product. And this becomes unrollable and we can go out there. And so we're going to try to get 2 uses out of it so we can throw a little less plastic away. But yeah, but I it's not our favorite job on the farm. So we just wanted to share this weird double pipe and chain setup.
Isn't it lovely?
Just to show you the kinds of contraptions that are at play here. And when we have something like that, we find that we can ask someone who's never farmed before to learn real quickly how to do this. And we don't end up with a big old knot of remay that we can't have to unroll for hours and hours and hours. So it has been a system that has been user-friendly for beginners. And we just thought we would show you our 2 pipes and our 2 chains. Yeah, Leah.
You use hoops at all, or you use draping in the crop, and then when you take it off?
Remay for us works, floating row cover. I'm on the West Coast. Floating row cover. Its job is flea beetle protection and carrot rust fly protection. And so no hoops for anything there. We will use some heavier duty stuff in the greenhouses for frost protection, but that's 96 feet long. That's much easier to manage. They can live in there all year. It's not a hassle, and we use a heavier gauge remay for that. So because we're only really trying to keep it off of some mustards, we're only trying to keep it off of carrots, no hoops. We haven't felt the need to use it on any cucurbits or peppers or anything like that. It's really just brassicas and carrots. I was just asked if we ever have an issue with squash vine borer, and that's a bug we've seen very infrequently here. So we haven't felt the need to do any protection there. The only insect pest that's really cost us any issues with cucurbits is the striped cucumber beetle, which has never been on our farm until last year. And I think it actually, like literally, I've never seen one here until last year. And then last year it showed up in 3 different fields that had cucurbits that were spread in different parts of the farm. So I suspect actually that like there might have been some eggs in the soil mix or something. I'm just not exactly sure how it would have popped up everywhere, but it did. And we've just resorted to squishing that by hand, walking through and doing a little squishing right at emergence. And that's worked okay. Was that a hand or just sun? Yeah. Okay. We have overhead irrigation for the most part at the farm. And irrigation is kind of a frustrating job. So we want to minimize how much we have to move our irrigation infrastructure around the farm. It's like an in-between size pump. I'm going to turn it on in a second and we'll water out there so we can see it in action. But we basically have built our rotation around the irrigation footprint. How big is our irrigation? And how many beds? And so in this case, it could do 10 beds, 5 on the left, 5 on the right of the hose that we drag down the middle with the overhead sprinklers. So we've chosen to build our system around this 10 bed footprint. And then we move that 10 beds we divide it up according to crop family and planting time. Rotation is tricky when you really get into it. How much of a crop do I need? When do I want it? What time of year? How long is it going to take? So in a situation like this, you can see we'll have to bring the sprinkler out here just for 4 of my 10 beds, and it's a bit of wasted work. So we're trying hard to minimize that waste. When we take the sprinkler out, when we run it, we budget for 4 zones being watered every day on this side of the farm. So we have to move the hoses each 2 times. We have 2 times twice a week. So we're watering 4 zones every day. And so it's a bummer to bring this out here and only water 40% of the zone. So that's what we try hard to minimize. This field, there's an exception because of what we have to put in here later. But you'll be able to see as we go along that we structure the rotation around these footprints. And so you want to figure out how to divide up that zone basically according to the season, because you're watering the ground whether there's a plant there or not. And so you try to look, okay, I'm going to have to fill out, and we've named them islands. This is Fava Bean Island because this is what was here earlier. So in Fava Island, it's all full. It's all getting irrigated evenly, except for like these 4 weeks where the favas and the garlic that were here are tapering or no longer here. and it's too soon to put in another crop. And so you want to try to build things that can go in and come out at about the same time, so that you're really minimizing all that wasted labor. And then you want to set it up so that you could flip-flop it next year and get the ground exposed to a new crop family, or move the whole island, the whole irrigation zone, to another part of the farm, so that we've built it into chunks, the zones that move across the farm that have the same crop families and timing coming on, but in a different location of the farm, so that we're getting these irrigated zones without having to over irrigate or irrigate empty ground, but we're getting the crops to happen in a new spot. So we end up with some fallow spots. You'll see it right there next to us. That was Broccoli Island, and now it is written off for the year. So it's just done. So we don't have to water it, and we've crossed it off as an irrigation zone because we brought on some later crops over there. So we can limit ourselves to these 4 zones every day. Yeah.
Good question. And can you talk a little bit about the decision-making process to use overhead irrigation?
I mean, I think it's just our acreage. We couldn't manage drip that way. It's just too many plants for us to, because we do some mechanical cultivation. We would have to hire a handful of new people just to move irrigation around all the time. And with our setup, and we'll get to look at the risers when we get a little further out in the field, you can water a zone, move the infrastructure to do it in like 20 minutes. So we spend 2 people could work for an hour each and have moved the water for the day. And that is something that the farm can afford. We can pull people out of other production to do that. It would take a lot more time to move these 10 beds of drip.
So you already do labor savings there.
Yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, there are places where we have fruiting crops that's typically where we end up using linty fabric into chouches. And so because we're not cultivating mechanically in those places, that's also the big piece.
We'll use drip there.
We use drip in those
Yeah.
locations. So in the greenhouse behind you, that's cucumbers, that has drip.
Yeah.
Our melons, drip. All of those kinds of areas get drip in various places. But yeah, for anything else, it would be a real pain.
Yeah, there's 8 islands we're watering right now, and they're all 10 beds each. So we wouldn't be able to move that much water around.
How do you monitor or decide how much water to put on?
Were the plants happy or not? We've just been doing it long enough that we go for an hour and 45 minutes each zone. I might, like, if they're carrots or something like that, I might just give them 45 minutes in the night, 45 minutes in the morning, and do that more frequently. But for the most part, we're not out there measuring any water, soil moisture, or anything like that. We just have an impression of how old the plants are, which will determine how much water they already, have access to, how well rooted they are. So yeah, it's just kind of based on their needs. But for the most part, I could just tell someone, hey, turn the pump on for an hour and 45 minutes. In fact, you want to turn on the pump on?
Sure. Throw down 45?
Nah, just give us like 50.
Okay.
So Kenny's going to turn on the pump, and the sprinklers are set up out there, and so they'll come on so you can kind of see the footprint that we're talking about watering. And then when we get over there, if we've done this right, the sprinklers won't be on, and we won't have to stand underneath them and get really wet. We've tackled the challenge of rotation by thinking first about what is our irrigation footprint, and trying to build islands that meet the other rotational requirements that fit in that footprint and can move around the farm. Does that make any sense? Okay. All right. I have some fertilizer equipment here because I think it's cool to see the tools that farms use. Most of our fertilizing is done at the time of transplanting, and I'll show you that when we get to the transplanter. It's rigged up with a side dresser that drops fertilizer immediately ahead of the plants being transplanted. So the vast majority of the farm is getting fertilized right at the moment that the plants are being transplanted. But we do have like some other equipment to handle special occasions here, right? Backpack sprayer, we're all familiar with. This would be, for addressing maybe a bug issue in a planting. We use a little belly mounted spin spreader if the plants have gotten tall enough that I don't want to drive a tractor over them, but they're a long-term plant in the ground. So like our kale planting, it's too big to take the tractor over at this point, but I can walk over that every 3 weeks or so and just spin a little bit of fertilizer. The fertilizer we use is from Skagit, from the co-op up there, and they just take a look at our soil test and do a custom blend for us. And we use it indiscriminately around the farm, but we have things metered out. So this we would only really use if we were taking like a maybe like something specific, boron or something, to where the celery is, something specific, or wanting to feed plants that are too tall. Okay. Our irrigation is all set up with cam lock, and so we've got this guy rigged up, and this would be for putting an amendment down right there at the time of irrigating. So this is a fertigation contraption. What's cool about it is you can just put in the amount you want, and then over the course of your hour and a half, it will have made it onto that island. It will have just totally let in. What's a bummer about it is it's continuously feeding water back into the thing. It's built for synthetic fertilizers that would only dissolve in the water at a specific concentration. So the concentrations would stay uniform, but nothing in organic land behaves that way, right? Because it's all just lighter concentration. So this is not well suited for like maybe spraying like a fungus on top of aphids and then letting it hang out. This would spray all that water and then continue to just rinse everything off. But it is a good way to throw something down in the footprint of that soil if you're trying to do that. But the weird one we have, I don't know, I haven't seen this in play. This is, I guess, from the forestry industry. I think you would see it at nurseries. And again, it's built for synthetic fertilizers, so it only lets a little bit down at once. But this is the best little tool. Like, this is the motion of dropping fertilizer. And so we can go through plants that are planted in landscape fabric and just hit them with whatever we want. It's adjustable up here. And it's just one little pump with that PVC pipe, and you've dropped some fertilizer down at each hole in the landscape fabric. For us, is that dead?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I will speak louder. Anyways, I wanted to bring it out because it has been super helpful for us. And if you work with landscape fabric and you want a way to fertilize, to do some like spot checking, this is a really, really, really great tool for that. And it is called the Fertilise, and I just feel like it's a hidden treasure. So
It's a solid fertilizer or a liquid?
solid. Yeah. And it's actually black magic as far as I can tell. Like, I have a suspicion on how it works, but I haven't confirmed it. But that's all you're doing. You're just like each hole, pop, pop, pop. So you can picture somebody maybe like hitting up potted plants at a nursery and putting whatever those dark green and yellow like circles are on top of them with a tool like this. Bringing the fertilizer stuff out here, part of my intention was to like see if there was anybody who was wanting to transition to organic stuff, who wanted to talk about like record keeping or applying amendments or anything like that. So I've got this staged here. If there's anybody who's like, I was thinking about it, but it seems like, how would you deal with a recording of this or anything like that? We could just talk a little bit about that, or I could just plant the bug in the back of your brain. You could come to us at the end of the walk or something. But if you're wanting to know about how the fertilizer would have to be recorded and the application of amendments, I thought, I'll just plant that bug right now if anyone wants to talk about it with us. I mean, okay. No one has a question though, just talk about it. So the way we structure it here is wherever the tool is stored, that's where the record is kept for all of our applications of amendments. And so these tools are all kept in one spot, like where the fertilizer itself is stored. And I've just got a clipboard on the wall there, and you just write what you did on the clipboard. And then on the day that you're being audited, you would go and you would grab that clipboard and bring it in, and it will have your record right there. And so it's a simple column on like a yellow legal pad that says what the product is, what the crop is, what the date is, and how much you used. And in the moment where you go to load the device up or load the pickup truck up to go out into the field and put something down, you could just scribble those notes in real easily, and then you've got your records kept. And so far, the certifiers have been happy with that. And so I think that transitioning from just getting to put down whatever you want to put down and not have to give it a thought to having to record everything is kind of a big step. And I think that it's sort of scary for farmers. Like they're nervous about like, how do I have to do that? Do I have to like write everything down I'm doing all the time, all day long? And I don't think so. I think you just find the things that are the the requirements, the way the requirements are worded, it's easy to figure out what it is you need to record. And something like this, anytime I would use any of these tools, I would need that documented. If I put something down in the ground, they're going to want to know what it is. But if I just have a clipboard right where the tool is stored, it's very, very easy. I don't have to switch mental stages. I'm still farming. I'm still going out to do the farm task. I just write it down and I move on. And that record's kept, and it's kept in a way that is convincing and totally meets the requirement.
And useful in the future.
Yeah.